My name is Tim Carter. I pastor Landmark Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Arkansas. And this is one of the platforms that Landmark uses among many platforms to carry out the Great Commission, which as a commissional church, we prefer and are happy to teach what will always be true, not something that maybe a few generations ago is now passed away and or changed to something else, and the novel doctrines that come and go. And also we don't practice an either-or-ism, a false dichotomy. We don't fall for things like that. So this is a response to those who don't understand the HyperGrace movement. Well, I'm not sure that everything involved in it is something that anyone could speak to. But when I hear people speak against HyperGrace, it seems like it's, well, we all know what it is. It's just the same criticisms of God's grace, and now the phrase HyperGrace. So religion will permit us, apparently, to write a song, compose a song called Amazing Grace. And I've heard religious people sing that song. And the same religious people who sing that song denounce something called HyperGrace. Religions will permit you to advocate resistible grace or irresistible grace. They will allow you to say common grace, prevenient grace, and one of the latest I'd heard about enabling grace. So whatever all those things are, it doesn't appear that the actual word in the Bible, hyper, which is a verb, and I have improved this because a lot of feedback said that when I translate these things out, you can't read it. So this is Romans 5:20, and this is moreover law entered alongside in order that the sin might abound. The offense here. This is para, and it's a word that means fall alongside, the offense. So law, moreover, law entered alongside in order that the offense might abound. But where the sin abounded, the grace, personified by Jesus, the person, the Christ, hyperabounded. So yes, I am flattered, honored, well, in many ways humiliated in the best way when people speak against me and associate me with hyper grace, because then I have the privilege and honor of, on behalf of Christ, receive that reproach that belonged to Him, and then remind people that in the Bible it spoke of the disobedience of Adam and how it was overcome by the obedience of Christ. And then this text here. So yes, Landmark Missionary Baptist Church and all Christians that are literally the people who are born from above receive new minds, hearts of flesh, and are partakers in the Spirit of God, and those of us who are regenerated through the gospel, and those of us who entire life is Christ-centered. Yes, hyperabounded is great, because when I ask people, religious people, again, they're always dichotomized, they're always angered, they're always emotive and outlandish, but I don't know what Amazing Grace is about. I was in a religious group once, and they were singing Amazing Grace, and I asked, why do you all sing this song? But it was amazing, because nothing they taught, believed, nor preached. They had a mixed grace gospel, and the gospel is absolutely no place for anyone except the grace, the person Jesus the Christ. So this is what the Bible actually says, and the red letters are important. And this is why, again, we go ahead and I just start here with Greek, because no matter what I teach, people who don't know what they're talking about always cite something that they don't know. And often people will say, well, the Greek this, the Greek that. So it's just easier to show that the Koine text, the commonly expressed language for commoners, is irrefutable and has no place for correction. And the good news about it is we want to teach and advocate these things about the hypergrace of God. So yes, if a religious person thinks he's making an accusation against a Christian by criticizing hypergrace, that's how diluted and disturbed their minds are, because They're so far removed from the grace, the person, the Jesus, that they don't even understand the implication of their remarks. So that's encouraging. When you go out and preach the gospel, we make these little brochure things and we explain the purpose of the gospel. This one was used by young people, young pastors in our church that do upward sports ministries, and they take them through, explain these texts, and it's really interesting because how effective it is to preach something so gracious and marvelous as this event. It was actually a verb where Christ hyperabounded. So you have a blessed day and enjoy the label. If you're ever so faithful and you're ever so favored by God to be labeled HyperGrace preacher, then you will know the elation that we know here at Landmark Baptist Church, and the joy this pastor has of knowing that finally I've arrived to an aspiration of my heart that God had given me to one day suffer reproach on behalf of Christ. And this is the ultimate reproach, and it's a joy unspeakable and filled with glory. So you have a blessed day.